Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Bava Metzia daf Samachay. We're going to begin in the middle of Samachay Aleph by the new Mishnah. Says the Masnisin, Marbin al hasachar ve'in marbin al hamecher. A landlord can increase the rent in exchange for a delayed payment, but he cannot sell one's property for a higher price in exchange for a delayed payment. We're going to see why, and the Mishnah is now going to explain this as follows. Ketzad. So hiskirlo es chatzero. So again, a person is renting out his property. V'amrulon, he says, if you pay me up front now, just pay me $10, let's call it, for a year. He says, instead, pay me by the month, so therefore, you'll have to pay me one each, which ends up being 12. So it seems to be hard to understand, but we see for some reason that you could accept a prepayment, apparently, of 10 instead of getting 12. That is allowed. However, Machalas today, if he wants to actually sell your field, I'll sell it to you now for 1,000, im l'gayrin, which is just another way of saying like the silos, but it means at a later period of time, for 1,200, then you're not allowed to, during the threshing period. So, for the Gemara, I understand why in the Reisha are you allowed to accept money earlier, why are you allowed to accept, again, this money earlier, different than if it was spread out, as opposed to later, as opposed to when you sell your property, you can't. So Gemara says there's a distinction, major distinction, which is going to be question 7 as well as TB 22. Ma'ishna schirus de marbin al sachar, how about the manas mois, baschirus veilu b'mecher ein marbin al mekach. So what's the difference between renting your property out and selling it? So he says like this: there's a fundamental difference because Rabbi schirus einam mishalem esel b'soif. Maybe on contrary to American law, when it comes to rental properties, you actually only have to pay at the end. You don't pay up front, you pay later on. So properly, since it hasn't reached the time to collect, he's not supposed to collect up front, he collects later on, so therefore he's not considered to be delaying payment over here. That really is supposed to be paid up front, and you're allowing it to be paid later on, and if it's an issue of agarnater. No, over here, pompakert, your payment is supposed to be later. The hachi shavya, this is actually supposed to be a zuz per month, or 12, let's say, for the whole year. When he says, pay me up front now 10, l'shana, for the year, he's making the price less than the normal price. So he's actually offering a discount for early payment, since the rent is only owed at the end. However, Seifa Kivan the Zivinin, who, since we're dealing with an actual sale, so when you sell something, it's supposed to take place right now. It happens now. Therefore, the reason why you can't do it this way when it comes to a sale is because it's agarnater. You're delaying payment, and therefore it becomes aser. So that's the answer for question 7 and question TB 22. Let's see how I wrote it. Ein chayav l'shalim es aschirus el b'sof oz zekamo discount l'shalim kivatchilas hachaydish shana mashen kein mecher yesh chiyuv l'shalim yad betchilas mecher oz ze agarnater lev aser. Beautifully written. Okay. Rava Dakubo Rabbanan Bahamilsa. So the Rabbanan investigated into this matter. They looked into this situation to try to find psukim to support this. Dakmuha akra. And again, they established on the psukim. Pasuk schir shana b'shana. So schir shel shana zu enu mashtalemes el b'shana acheres. So it says shana b'shana. So it's an interesting language, which is coming to tell you that the rental is only at the end, and therefore it's not an issue of agarnater. However, we're talking about Selling property, so then if you say pay me now 1,000 or pay me later 1,200, that's agarnater. So Rabbi Nachman, Tarsha Shari. However, when it comes to Tarsha, it's allowed. Says Rashi, Limchar Schayra Bihamtana Biyosim B'Demeha. When it comes to selling merchandise at a higher price than it's worth by delaying, that's allowed. When it comes to engaging in selling of merchandise, don't explain the that if you would give it to me now it would be less. All you do is just say, pay me later on X amount of dollars, and that's it. So even though it's true, maybe if you paid earlier, then the price would have been different, but as long as you don't stipulate it that way, it's okay. That's Tarsha. Eisvei Rabbi Bar Chamel Rab Nachman v'Yirmelo Rab Ukva Bar Chamel Rab Nachman Yasakasha. It says v'Imagar Mishnei Aser Mana Aser. We see clearly when it comes to selling things, you can't delay payment, and then by delaying payment, you end up paying more money. We see you're not supposed to do that. So how could we say it's allowed? So Amalei Hasam Katzle Hachalo Katzle. In our Mishnah, the problem is he stipulated it all. He said, Im Yachshav this. If not, if you pay me now, good. If later, more. So that's when it's aser. However, if you didn't specify, you just said it's stam, then it is mutter, which is going to be question TA21, which again is mahu tarsha, mahu dinoi. So shemaycher schayrim hamtanas damim b'yosef b'nemeha b'loi cuts mutter. However, if you explained it, then it's aser. Amra papa tarsha didi shari. My form of tarsha is allowed, says Rashi. Oisas shecher tamarim. So a papa was a beer maker with dates. Umaychelo b'zman hazoil b'tishrei. He would sell it lower in the month of Tishrei. Kashar shel Nisan umamtin lo ad Nisan. And he would sell it for the price of the month of Nisan. He would wait until Nisan for payment. So Didi Shari, I was allowed to do this. Apparently, even though it seems like Agarnater, that he's asking for more money by delaying payment for Nisan. So Didi Shari. So my time, Sechari lo posid, because I'm not losing out, because my beer is not going to end up getting ruined. I'm able to actually keep the beer if I wanted to until Nisan. Zuze lo serichna. And I also don't need the money because I'm wealthy. And therefore, I don't need to sell it at the current market price, which is a lower price. And therefore, I could wait. Ana hudeka vidta milsa gabi lokeach. However, all I'm doing is doing the lokeach a favor. And therefore, because of that, it is allowed. Okay. So my chazi mar de ka'azlas baser didach. So you're saying that you're doing allowing this, and you're collecting later on monies for its value, how much it would be in the time of Nissan, because the truth is you don't need the money to. I don't need the money to sell it because I'm rich, and I also can just hold on to the beer. So the fact that I'm giving him the beer now, I really could have just held on to the beer later on and sold it for a higher price. I'm giving him the beer now so he can enjoy the beer, but he has to pay me for a later price. So he says, Zilbasser did who? Why don't you look at the consumer who's losing out? Deal habil huzuzi habi shakli kihashta. If he actually had the money now to buy the beer, so you're giving him the beer, but you're charging him for a later price. But if he had the money, he would be able to give you the money for a lower price. So understand now that you have, he doesn't have money, so now he's losing out. They would rather buy their beer at a lower price now, but they can't because they don't have the money. So they have to pay more an expensive price later on. It sounds like to be problematic. So Amarav Chama Tarshadidi, my business transactions, Vadi Shari, are certainly allowed. My timer. Nichlahu Deleika Bershusi, it's better that it's in my Rishus. The Chol Hecha de Azli Shafkilhu Michsa, because wherever they would go, there would be taxes. But Naklahu Shuka. So this is, what is this referring to? So first of all, Rashi explains that moicher pragmatia hoya, the person who is who's selling and buying this, is actually not consuming the beer, but rather he sells it moicher b'makam hazoil, kishar shehu nimcher b'makam hayoker. So this person is making a profit, and he's selling it for a higher price than what he actually bought it for. So Rashi says that I accept the achrayus while it's in transit, so it's considered like it's mine. And if you want to say, well, it seems like they're being matriach, so it seems like they're losing out, but the truth is not the case, because when it comes to taxes, it's in better condition, a better situation, that it should be under like my domain, because a Talmid Chacham doesn't pay taxes, and the storefront stops until his items are sold. So it's to their advantage to work with Rav Chama. So therefore, it's not considered to be an issue in this case, because we can say, oh, what the consumer's losing out. The consumer's not losing out because he's taking advantage of this tax loophole, if you will, by engaging together with the Talmid Chacham. Samachem and Beis. However, v'hilchasa karav Chama, the law is like Rav Chama. V'hilchasa karav Elazar. V'hilchasa karav Yanai. The law is like Rav Yanai. The Omer Mali Hein Mali Demehen. So at least it reminds us of this last statement of Rav Yanai, that when it comes to Ribbis Katsutsa, Yotza B'Dayanim, so he said that he can. What's the difference if it's the item or he can give the money back? Either way, the same din applies. Says next Mishnah. Masnisan. Let's say a person sells his field. However, the guy doesn't pay entirely for the value of the field. He only pays for a partial payment. And obviously he wants the moicher, the seller, wants the rest of the money. So he says, whatever you want, habi mois, give me the rest of your money, paid in full, the difference, the tola shulcha, and then you'll be able to take the field. Aser. In that situation, it's not allowed. Now, what happened? Again, because he did receive some money, and now all of a sudden, this field is technically being sold. This guy can't use it until a later time, so it's aser. Halvahu al sadehu. Let's say he lends lends on a field. Yermoim iyata noisali mekan viad shalish shanim. If I pay you within the next 3 years, hari hi shali, that's mine. Hari hi shaloi v'kach haya baitos ben zainin oisen al pi chachamim. So this was something which apparently was allowed to be done, that you held the field, and if hopefully I can pay you back. If I can't pay you back, I can keep the field, etc. Says the Gemara. So miochel peros. The question is, when you sell something and there's only partial payment, so what goes on until that time? Who's allowed to eat the fruits? Because technically, even though you may be the new owner of the field, you didn't make the full payment. So are you able to eat all the fruits? Rav Huna oimer moichel peros. The one who sells it still has full rights to be able to eat these fruits. Rav Anon oimer mishalshlin esaperos. Actually, at this point, we're going to deposit this field with a third party until the buyer makes all the payments. Full pleading. The truth is, this is not a machlokas. Had oimer. One is when he said lechi maisis kani. Only when you bring me the money will you be kaina, and therefore, until that takes place, it still belongs to the moicher, and therefore the moicher can eat it. Hadi lechi maisis kani miachshav. The other one he says miachshav, and since you said miachshav, so therefore, what ends up happening is that once he actually fulfills this condition, so the moicher should not have been able to have eaten those fruits retroactively, and therefore we keep it in the hands of a third party. Tani Rav Safra, beribis the be Reb Chia. When it comes to Reb Chia, pamim shishneim mutarim, pamim shishneim asurin. Sometimes both they're allowed, sometimes not allowed. Pamim shemoicher moter v'lekech aser, pamim shelekech moter v'moicher aser. So Ani Rabbi Basrei, so he answered, Pamim sheshneim mutarin. When do we say that they're both allowed to partake of this field and the fruits? Yermelei kani kashir zuzach, which is going to be question 8. Question 8 asks, Machal asasada v'nasan lo mixas damim be'ezo oifen muter l'shneim le'echal peros be'ezo oifen asur shneim. So if he says kashir zuzach, basically what he's saying is that you are allowed to use the field. You can acquire the amount of the land connected to the amount that you partially paid. So therefore, what you have, you can eat, and what you didn't give me yet, I can eat. Pamim sheshnein asurin. When are they both asur? As we said, that it was miachshav, then it doesn't work because, again, right now the loikach can't have it because he didn't pay fully. But the moicher can't eat the fruits either because it's possible that once he makes those payments, it's going to retroactively be there was always the loikach, there was the buyers. And therefore, that's the reason why we said in that situation when he uses the language kani me'achshav, so what we'll do is mishalshel nesaperis. We're going to put the fruits into a third party so that no one eats them. Pamim moicher muter v'loikach aser. When is the seller allowed to? As we said, that once you give me the money, the rest of the money, then you could be kind of the field, which means that until that time, the moicher is on to eat the fruits. Which we didn't see yet. He says, you're kind it now, which means the lekech has rights to it, and I, the moicher, don't. And the money is like a loan to you, which basically means you now own fully this field, and then you just pay me back the difference. So Mantanish Asurin, who's the one who said that they're both asur in the situation where he says Kani Me'achshav? So Amarav Huda Rabbi Yoshua, the like Rabbi Huda. Must be not like Rabbi Huda. The Rabbi Huda ha'emer sad echad b'ribus mutter. Because as we said, according to Rabbi Huda, sad echad b'ribus means that if you walk into a deal where there's a possibility of ribus, possibility there won't be a ribus, so according to Rabbi Huda, he says that's not considered to be a chashash of ribus. It's called sad echad b'ribus. Because since it's possible that ribus will never even take place, so therefore we don't say it's asur. So this is a case of sad echad b'ribus mutter, because we're dealing with a situation where what happens if the loikech doesn't end up paying the difference, or if he doesn't finish paying? So in that situation, he was never kainit, and therefore there was no issue of him eating those fruits. And therefore, because of that, this is only in accordance to those who hold sad echad baribus is asur. Says Rashi, sad echad dilma asilide ribus. We don't know. It's possible. Dilma loyasi, maybe will happen, maybe won't happen. Ketzad imoicher oichlim. Let's say the seller eats these fruits, v'loy gamer lekech mechoi, but the guy didn't end up making his full payments. Ain't kind of ribus. Gomer, it's not considered ribus. But Gomer, if he did finish paying, then yesh kan ribus. Hilcha to look Rabbi Huda. Therefore, it's obviously not like the sheet of Rabbi Huda. Okay, that's what we need to see with the Rashi. Fine. Sadechad b'ribus mutter. Mishkein lo bias, mishkein lo sada. Let's say a person gives as collateral house, field, when you wish to sell it, only sell it to me. For this amount of money, asur. So basically, you make a stipulation that when I'm selling this field, this house, but if you ever want to sell it, so then you have to give it back to me. Bishavehen mutter. But if it's for its worth, then it is mutter. Let's look at Rashi. Mishkel abayis, braysehi b'damim halol, pasuk l'damim muatim. You set aside a certain amount of money. L'hoisev lo mois halval tzmisus. Okay. B'shemei mutter. Mantan b'damim halol aser samaram huda b'Rabbi Yeshua dolok Rabbi Huda. Against that Rabbi Huda. Rabbi Huda di'emet sad echad b'ribus mutter. This is another case of sad echad b'ribus because it's possible that it won't end up happening. Machal abayis, because he may not wish to sell, etc. Machal abayis, machal sad v'yamali. He says to him, "Likashiyuli mois, when I get the money, hachzirimli, give it back to me, aser. Likashiyulecha mois, achziremlecha mutter." But if he says, "I'll give it back to you," then mutter in that situation it's allowed. Mantana, some Rabbi Huda, Rabbi Yeshua, the Rabbi Huda, the Rabbi Huda, Oimer Sadechad B'Bris Mutter. So Maishna Reisha Maishna Seifa. Some Rava Reisha Doi Ermer Medaite. Seifa the Ermeli Medaite. Okay, we're gonna stop there, but let's just quickly see Rashi. Sad Echad. Fine. All right, we'll stop there. Let's see if there's another question. Okay, nothing for TA. TB, Madua in Chazor, so I know Kusha. Okay, no. And question 8, we saw Adkan.